Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sip and Tip. I'm back, and I am back with Fortunate Watambwa.
Hi. Hi everyone. Hi Google.
Hey. No, don't be shy. Just be yourself. So, Fortunate is here to talk to us about her journey with cancer. I can't even imagine, how difficult, it must be to go through something like that. I do have someone in my family who's had that journey. So I know that it's one of the worst things that could happen to a person. But Fortunate is somebody who I actually went to school with as well, my senior.
Hi Monia.
Yeah, and we never even really spoke, because you know how it is when you're in school, you stick to your year, and unless unless you know each other and stuff. So I just thought it was so crazy how we barely spoke, and then all of a sudden, years later, here we are. God just has an amazing sense of humor.
He does.
So who is Fortunate Watambwa?
I'm a pastry chef, mother of two. Yes, a cancer survivor. I don't know what else. Oh yes, and I own my own baking school and company. So
Okay.
yeah.
I've seen posts of your cakes and all of that, and I'm like, wow, you look like you've literally been doing it for a very long time because it looks really professional and stuff.
Thank you. Well, I actually went to varsity and did a BCom in marketing. So, and I was running my own events company, and then I just started baking as a little side thing because I had to pay people first before I could get my money. So, being in Zimbabwe, I couldn't get money. Okay. So my employees would get the money, and then I'll be left with nothing. So baking was like just a side hustle, and then it became more lucrative. So I sold my events company and started baking full time. Did have to go to school for it to get to where I am, but yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So from time to time you can look at the camera because people are looking at you and they want to see your eyes. And so tell me about like your family, your upbringing. There's one thing that you posted the other day that made me realize that you have a very supportive family.
Yeah, I'm the youngest in a family of three. So I've got two older brothers, and both my mom and dad are still alive. So we're still very close knit. I had an older sister who passed away 11 years ago. So she was the oldest, and I'm the youngest.
To hear about you passing with your sister.
Thanks. So it was both my brothers. One's in Switzerland, and the other's in the UK. When I got my cancer diagnosis, the one in Switzerland was around. He had come for a visit last year, so it was very convenient. Very convenient, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And it must have just been really weird for him that he's come on holiday and then he finds out that his sister, it must have been like something else, eh?
Yeah.
So, tell me about the journey from high school. As I said, we went to the same high school together. After Chisipiti, how did your life go? Up till you got to you got the cancer diagnosis.
Oh, okay. Let's see if I can remember all of that. So I left school, took a gap year. And my gap year, I actually got pregnant with my first child. And so we were, and then I started doing my varsity as I was pregnant as well. And then graduated, got my degree. Family again was very supportive. Took care of the baby so I could do stuff. And then started working. I actually started working for a company that my dad was in senior management, so nepotism.
But I'm sure you qualified, right?
Yes, I did. And then we went to the States afterwards for a little while. Came back, started working for, have to I've worked for a number of companies. I have to think, well, I started working for another company, doing my marketing, and then ended up at another company where I rose to the ranks and became the creative director.
Nice.
So I figured that I was pretty much running things. So let me start my own events company. And that's when I started my own events company. And it was pretty good for a while. I think we had a 6-year run, and then things just started going shady and, economy-wise. So I started doing my baking as a side hustle until I was making 3 times that from just my baking. When I was doing it.
From baking, you're making 3 times the money you were making from the events company?
Yeah.
Wow.
As the owner. Wow. But then there weren't so many bakers back then as well.
Okay.
So, I mean, now you get bakers that are doing, baking for next to nothing. I don't know how they do it because, you do your own cost analysis and you see it just doesn't equate.
And people don't understand how expensive ingredients are.
Yeah.
Like I started making cheesecakes end of last year. And you find people don't understand why a whole cheesecake, will cost how much it costs. Like there's cream cheese in there. There's fresh cream in there.
Cream cheese on its own is a killer.
There's a whole tin of condensed milk in there. Like, you're like, of course, it's expensive. So I guess if you are pricing your cakes the right way, it's very possible to make good money from it.
See, a lot of people think moving volumes is making money, but if you're moving volumes and they say you're baking 10 cakes a day and you're only making $1 from a cake, that's $10 a day, which is roughly $300 a month.
Yeah, it's not
and I can make 301 cakes.
Wow. So you make like wedding cakes and all of this?
Yes, all of it. Novelty cakes, 3D cakes, all of it.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So after the cake making, what happened after that? Because I want you to take me to the point where you got diagnosed with cancer.
Well, after I think about 2 years after doing the cake making, I got I used to get a lot of queries from people for me to teach them. So that's where the baking school came out of it, and so I started teaching that. And so for the past, I think, a decade and a bit, I've been baking and teaching. Well, teaching for about 8 years now.
Holding classes that you are paid for to teach.
Holding classes that I'm paid for to teach. I tutor. I have assistants who also tutor as well, and also help with the baking, especially when I was going through chemo. They did a lot of the work. And my daughter now, she also does, although she's broken off and now has her own little company.
Oh, nice.
So
and how old is she?
She's 18.
Wow, she's a big girl already.
She's a big girl, too big, too quickly. Off into the world soon. So
okay.
And so I think for the past 3 years before I got my diagnosis, I started like having, a blocked nose or just what we thought was hay fever. I grew up asthmatic.
I have allergies as well, like hay fever.
Exactly. I mean, there was that yellow tree at Chizzy. I can't remember what classroom that was. That it was
a lot. So I just remember like jacaranda trees for me were just always, and we did have those at Chizzy.
Yeah, lots.
That was just the worst season. There was one time when it hit me so bad that I think I was sick for a whole week. I didn't come to school, and that's when I actually went to a dermatologist. My dad took me to because he was like, this is like serious now.
Yeah.
And they did the whole test where they poke your skin and you see, what you react to. So gross. Because I used to play soccer. I would play soccer while my nose was running and my eyes itching, and I'm just pushing on the field, pushing with my tissue in my pocket. I was like, how did I do it? How did I do it? When I think of that, I feel so sorry for myself. I'm like,
you pushed through it.
And I didn't know this very grass that you are just frolicking on all day is what's making you sick. So anyway.
So went to the doctor. So we all thought, natural progression, allergies, I could just sinus problems. So I had an array of medication that was prescribed to try and treat the sinus issues, but nothing ever helped. You know, you'd have, I even went on steroids at some point, and it acted like it had helped. It was helping for a little while, and then it was just blocked. So for a few years, I just had a blocked nose. And prior to me going to the ENT, like again, I went to the doctor because I couldn't breathe at night, and you know, so I thought it was sleep apnea, or I just had to get adenoids removed and all this, and you know, you make your own diagnosis.
It's a lot for a high school kid.
No, this is after.
This is way after high school.
Yeah, this is just before my diagnosis.
So at high school wasn't that bad?
No, at high school it was just, you know, asthma, but I mean, it was manageable.
Okay.
It was manageable, and of course allergies, the jacarandas, the yellow tree, I don't know what it's called. But it's like right opposite the chapel.
Is it the one that has like those yellow balls they look like fuzzy?
No. You know, the chapel is right here, and then you've got your car park here. And there's a classroom that's right over there. I think that was our classroom when we were in Form 1. But I don't know, there's this
yellow
class.
flowers.
Yes, yellow flowers.
I think I remember it.
And it's like furry, like the branches are furry and yeah.
So something about that tree.
Yeah.
That was
that tree used to give me hell. That's why I remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so it was just, you know, normal come August, watery eyes and all that. But so we just thought it was natural that it was sinuses. And then even the doctors were like, no, your sinuses, and antibiotics, steroids, you name it, did all of them, injections at some point. And so I couldn't breathe. I actually went to the emergency rooms because it was like early in the morning, and I was like, I can't take this. And I went and I was like, I can't breathe. Not only is my nose blocked, but my throat was blocked right now. So they're like, okay, let's give you medication. I was like, I don't want medication. Just give me a referral letter and I'll go to the ENT. And like, we're not there. And I was like, no, we're there. 3 years, and I've just been going through all this. We are there. You know? So he wrote the referral letter, and I went straight to the ENT. I called on the way, do you have space to take me now? So we went there, and you know, they have their little cameras, and it's like, oh, there's a tumor. He was so cavalier about it. And he was like, I don't think it's much. It was about 4 centimeters, so it had grown, you know.
Where was it exactly?
It was right in the middle of my nasal passage. So, which is why I was always blocked, and why they always thought it was sinus issues and infections and all that. So finally, I get to, you know, he says you need to have it removed, and then we'll do a biopsy, check to see if it's benign or malignant, and you know, you're healthy, you're young, and you know, all that. So I was like, okay. You know, the way, and my dad had 2 tumors removed, and they were all, you know, it was okay. So I'm just thinking, yeah, well. And
so it didn't shock you? You didn't think, oh my God, I'm gonna die, like my life is changing?
No,
it didn't hit you.
I mean, you know, you're shocked to hear you have a tumor.
Yeah.
But then you always think, well, you know, the amount of times that people that I'm close to, my dad and a friend of mine,
had one and it was removed and they're fine.
And they were fine. So even my recovery, I drove myself to to get the biopsy done. And then my dad drove back. So I was just going to say, no, you guys stay. But my mom and dad actually came. And they're like, no, you're going for an operation. I was like, there's no need, really.
Wow. So you really were strong about it.
No, I was, yeah. So, well, thank God that my dad took him, because afterwards it was, you know, I woke up and I wasn't in pain, but like I was swollen and all this, you know, when anesthesia wears off and you're just like, oh. So we drove home. They gave me an option to stay overnight, but my kids were calling. So like, let's video chat. And I was like, it's like, oh, you look awful. The little one started crying. I was like, no, just take me home. Do I really need to be here?
Yeah.
You know? And so the doctor was like, no, well, you can go home, but we'll be checking up on you. And I was like, no, it's fine. So went home. For 2 weeks, I was supposed to not do anything, just rest. But 2 weeks sitting around is a long time.
Very hard.
It was hard. It was hard, but I did do it. It was sort of, sort of, and the results took a while to come because I had to send them to SA, and then they came back, and they did call. They actually called on my mom's number first. So when they called my mom then called me and said, "Your results are out. You need to go." I was like, "Okay, fine." So I drove and I took my girls. My sister's kid was around. She used to stay in SA. She passed away recently. Okay. So she came, and Kayla, and I was like, "Oh no, my doctor's good looking." So one of you could, So they actually came with me, and we were so happy and all this. We didn't really think anything of it. So we get into the doctor, and at the reception, the nurses, who are usually so friendly and so light, they were okay, but you could tell, but I didn't put it into my head that, they're acting differently.
Are they supposed to do that though, like professionally?
No, I don't think they knew that they're doing it. How someone's got bad news and you are smiling, but it's not the usual banter.
But you're a trained nurse now. Surely you know what I mean? Like you're used to things like that happening, and you should know how to, handle it the right way.
Maybe. But ENTs, are they really used to it though? Like it's not a cancer department. So anyway.
Yeah.
And as I walked in, the doctor, he started like trying to tell me, and he was like, "No, let's first check your ears." Because of the tumor, like it had blocked liquid, and the liquid was building up in my ears. And so he had put in grommets. So he was just checking that everything was okay. And then he was like, "Let me check your ears first." When he said that, I was like, "Oh, but let it not be." And then he told me afterwards, he's like, "Oh, well, we got your results back, and it's aggressive non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And you need to get it checked, what stage you are, if it's spread, etc." And then he gave me tissue and was like, "Well, if you want to cry." And I was thinking, and I was like, right now I'm a bit too shocked to cry. I was like, okay, and so now what do I do? And it's like, well, you need to go and see this hematologist because it is cancer of the blood. And I was like, okay, how many hematologists are there in Zim? And he's like, well, there's 2 well-known ones, and then I'm sure there are others. And I was like, okay. So he referred me to a doctor, who won't say his name, and I'm still waiting for an appointment. So I'm still waiting. This is a year and some months later, I'm still waiting for an appointment. And when I went there to get my appointment, I was like pushed from this department to that department. And then I was like, no, but my dad sees a hematologist because he's got a vitamin B12 deficiency. So I was like, let me call him. So I called Prof Pakana from the Hematology Center. And he's one of the best in Southern Africa. So I was, it's like, is this something that you do? And he's like, yeah, come through. So I went on a Wednesday and started my chemo on the Friday. Yeah. And he's like, we've got other tests to do, but you can start your chemo. So we need to stage it. We need to see if it's spread and etc. So I had a scan done after I started my chemo. I had all the blood tests. You get your bloods taken before you do chemo so that they see that you're able to do chemo. Okay. And I don't know how many times I was pricked with a needle throughout the journey. If I don't see another needle, I'm good.
Where do they prick you?
Well, you for the chemo, it's intravenous. So either here or here or here. There was a point where they were looking at my feet. Because as you progress, when you go through chemo, your veins get smaller and smaller. Yeah. So it's hard to find a vein. Wow. And, so when my scan results came back, it had spread to my liver, and I was stage 3. So it was. Yeah. Then finding out that I was stage 3 was more of a shock.
Now hit you.
Yeah. Than finding out that I had cancer, because everything happened so fast. I got my diagnosis on a Friday, and Saturday I was driving to Masvingo for my friend's birthday party, and they were like, "Oh no, she's gonna cancel," and oh my God, did not everybody know? My mom called everyone, my friends, my brothers, that I was going to the doctor. So now everyone's like, "What time's your appointment?" I was like, "I made it for 12." So like 12:30, people were calling. My brother in the UK was just like, "Okay, I'm coming." I'm like, don't come, just hold on. You know, I remember driving back, I put my phone on silent because everyone was calling, going back home, and I had to go and work on orders, deliver those orders. So I couldn't afford to collapse. When I did tell the kids, I got into the car and they were like, so what did the doctor say? That's actually when I cried because I was like, I have to be strong, I have to be strong. And it just, I broke down. So now they're like, And Kayla, my oldest, she wasn't quiet. I think she was quiet for like 3 days. She wasn't, you know, my little one didn't understand. She was like, she just knew mommy was sick. So, shame. Yeah. So that's 2 diagnoses.
So the journey of going through the treatments and all of that, what was that like?
They kind of prepare you. I mean, you know, it's not going to be easy. And then your family starts saying, oh, well, we need to buy this, we need to buy that, you need to eat this, and you need to eat that. And Prof was like, you eat what you can. Because he knew. You know, he knew. Like, when you go through chemo, some people breeze through it. And some people it hits hard. And it's like, it doesn't discriminate with race, age, or even how sick you are. You know?
So you don't have to be on a special diet?
Not really, no. Because it depends on what you can stomach. Like, I couldn't I think for 3-4 months, I couldn't stand anything that had salt, onions, or garlic in it. I could only drink water, have coffee, like coffee without sugar, and cream of mushroom soup and toast. Like plain toast.
So you ate that for 3 months?
Yeah, 3-4 months.
Wow. Wow. So it's almost like pregnancy where you have certain things that your body just now completely rejects.
Yeah.
And
I mean, there was a time when I just woke up and I wanted sushi, so I drove like 45 minutes to go to Nike Sushi. And then I bought this whole platter and I only ate one. And my girls were happy. So
they say, you know, sugar is something that's very one of the main causes of cancer. So you're not having sugar in your tea. Is it something that you did consciously, or you just your body rejected sugar? Yeah. So does that happen to everyone who has cancer?
No. As I said, some people breeze through it. Like I only started eating carrots a few months ago. I can't stand carrots. For some strange reason, just the smell of carrots.
I mean, carrots don't even have a smell.
Oh, they do.
They only really have a smell when you like make carrot cake. Do you know what I mean?
Oh no, well,
it's a sweet, delicious smell.
I love carrots. I've always loved carrots, but I couldn't stand them. And I remember they like my helper would close all the doors because you know my kids had to get vegetables somehow. And then I'll be in my room
so
and they start, like, I was like, if you boil them, I will smell them.
I mean,
if you fry them, I will smell them. If you steam them, I will smell them.
One would think you're talking about fish. Do you know what I mean? Like carrots barely have a smell, but you know, I guess the human body is just strange like that.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
So I couldn't take carrots. I couldn't, remember we bought asparagus once and I was like, I need to get some type of vegetable in me. Couldn't take that either. Tried my helper tried making minestrone from scratch, you know, like couldn't eat that. I could only have cream of mushroom soup, the packet ones, not like freshly made. Well, freshly made, no.
At least you were eating something. So did you lose a lot of weight?
In the beginning, yes, I did, but that was because I think with chemo you start feeling lousy as you're going through the IV. So you're feeling horrible, you're feeling nauseous, but it kicks in 2 days later, and that's when you start throwing up. I mean, there were days where I'll be throwing up, I'll be sitting on the toilet, bucket in hand, and having diarrhea, and then 2 weeks later, you're going through constipations. It was just, it was awful. But then for the first 3 treatments, I'd have my treatments once every 3 weeks. So for the first 3 treatments, the side effects were so severe, like I was wasting away. And I think on the 3rd one, my mom says that I almost died, basically, because I couldn't get up. And I had them build a fire. It was winter. So I had them build a fire. And I didn't want to heat it. I wanted a proper wood fire in the fireplace. And then they put a mattress there, and I was there, and I had a duvet, and I had, you know, those thick duvets, and another thick blanket, and other smaller blankets, and I was bundled up in pajamas and jerseys and by the fire, but I still couldn't. I couldn't feel the heat, and I was shivering, and I was just, it was horrible. So after that, my mom was just like, no, carry her into the car. We went to see the prof, and he was like, okay, let's change her medicine because you've got medicines to counter the side effects, but those weren't working. So they gave me a different regimen, and that regimen had lots of steroids. So I started gaining weight. Yeah.
But I think that, that's still better than being, there's nothing worse than the cold. There's nothing worse than the cold, like not being able to warm yourself up. Being too hot is another thing. There's so many ways you can deal with that.
Cool
Fans, ice, but to feel cold and not be able to fix that must be the worst.
It was horrible.
Thing.
It was, I don't wish chemo on anyone. I think chemo is what kills people, really. It's awful.
Your body just goes through so much beating.
Because they're basically killing off everything, basically, and it's because that's the only way to kill off the cancer. So you can't target the cancer unless you do radiation. And had my tumors had not been taken care of with chemo, I would have had to have radiation after. Then my scans came back clear, and my doctor didn't tell me, like on my fifth, because a cycle is 6 treatments. So on my 5th treatment, when I went for a scan, like there was no sign of the tumor, but my doctor didn't tell me. And he told me, I would have said 6 section for what?
Well, thank God he didn't tell you, because you had to go through it.
I don't know if I had to.
You don't think you had to?
Well, the cancer was gone.
I guess, but I think it's just better to be safe, to be thorough, Yeah. So that's like quite the journey. So like in your experience, have you found that there's a lot of people in this country who did you meet a lot of people? You may not have the exact stats, Kuti, how many people, but
well, no, apparently, cancer's become very common in Zim. It has become unless you've dealt with it personally, you wouldn't know really. But when I was telling a few of my friends that, this is the journey that I'm going through, I remember they were like, oh yeah, well, my mom did this, or my sister, my cousin, my aunt.
Yeah.
And then you start, realizing just how many people have gone through it.
My dad had prostate. I always say it the wrong way. Prostate cancer. But he's okay now. He's he's healthy. He's so but you just always have that little fear, like what if it comes back? You know what I mean? Especially when someone is almost elderly, like they're in their late 70s. But yeah, so I think I do agree with you that it does seem that most families have someone,
We do, yeah. Which is sad, really. But and one thing that I did realize is that cancer is very expensive, like extremely expensive.
I was gonna ask you that, like the costs. How did your family manage, to?
Luckily, we had savings.
Y'all are wealthy.
Oh no, not like that. No. We had savings, and like my brother in the UK, he was prepared to just leave everything and come and take care of me. Because being the only kid in Zim, I'm like the primary caregiver for my parents. They're still able to do things, but like doctor's appointments and whatnot, doing all that running around. So now both my brothers were a bit worried, as in, what do we do? My oldest brother, the one he was around, he actually hired a driver. And he's like, if you have your driver around, then he can drive you, lessens the stress. You don't want, because my mom's eyesight is shitty as heck. You don't want her driving you around. And the few times that she did take me from chemo, she does not see potholes. So
when people don't see potholes, like even if someone with good eyesight doesn't see a pothole when they're driving you just like, what the hell?
And like you're feeling
the feeling is just horrible. Anyway.
So yeah, and he actually, because even with medical aid, there's still certain drugs, and I remember there was one drug that was almost $3,000 by itself, and I had a regimen of 4 chemo drugs, and then the counter drugs and the steroids and all.
So how much money do you think you spent just treating that during that
shortfalls.
time?
I haven't really done a calculation, but it was around about 1,500 extra for each session. That's just with the chemo drugs.
Okay. So like the whole thing, like all the treatments, the drugs, everything, like roughly how much do you think?
After about 15,000 over medical aid. So with medical aid, I'm not sure how much it would without medical aid.
Without medical aid, it would be more than that.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a lot. So there are people, obviously, we know that our economy is not the best. There's, unemployment is, I wouldn't know specifically, but I would say over 90%.
That's what they say.
Everyone is, hustling. So someone who can't even afford to go for a checkup, and then they find out that they have cancer, or, I suppose for you to find out, you would have gone for those checkups, but you basically struggle to find the money to even just have regular checkups with a doctor. How can that person actually survive in this country? What do you think happens for people like that? Or what have you observed happens with people who don't have family that can chip in and pay for?
That's a lot of people. Like having gone through, after this, I did a few talks after I got my NED status, no evidence of disease. I did a few talks, and you find out that people have died unnecessarily. Stage 1, stage 2 cancer, and then they go to traditional routes. And I remember so many people in my own family, they would call and they'd be like, why do you end up in a sekoro? Go to this dude and before you get your chemo. And I was like, and this is when I told my parents, don't tell anyone. So,
I suppose they're thinking of so many things, Kuti. We all have different levels of faith in different things. And I think, even Christians sometimes can struggle to know when to seek professional help or when to seek. You seek God all the time, but I think sometimes we just don't know where to draw the line, because you're like, I'm not having faith in God if I take all of these steps for something that could be this serious, Yeah. So, are you a Christian?
Yes, I am.
So how did you find that, like, this affected your faith as a Christian?
Well, firstly, in terms of getting treatment, I'm a firm believer in medicine, and I believe that God made doctors for a reason. So I will go to the doctor regardless of whatever. But I was angry. I was so angry. I struggled so much. I was like, okay, if you take me, what's going to happen to my babies? If you take me, what's going to happen to my parents? Kayla was going through her A-levels. How's that going to affect her?
Okay. I'm going to have to stop the episode now, and we'll continue because of the time. We've just gone over 30 minutes. I actually just wanted us to do 20 minutes and then record again. But yeah, we're continuing. So we're stopping here. But you definitely should watch the next part 2 of Fortunate's story of her journey with cancer. But thank you so much for watching. And stay tuned to Sip and Tip. Remember to subscribe. Remember to put your comments down below. Let us know. I'm sure there's some people who are watching who maybe have also been diagnosed with cancer, or someone in the family, or you just have questions about it. Do comment and make sure you watch the next one. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.